Tonight, Spencer Gulf residents reminded to stay vigilant as local COVID-19 cases rise. And a man flown to the Royal Adelaide Hospital following a serious crash near Port Augusta.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Ruby Kamain begins now.
Good evening. Residents across the Spencer Gulf are urged to continue implementing personal measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. It comes as active case numbers in Whyalla and Port Augusta continue to rise.
It's a trend that has worried local officials in the Upper Spencer Gulf. Active case numbers in Whyalla and Port Augusta rising in the past few days, concerning the current member for Giles.
They're probably on the counts. They're probably significant on the count in Port Augusta. So that is concerning. At one stage was hardly any active cases in the whole of my electorate.
Whyalla recording 225 active cases, with Port Augusta recording 334. It comes as the state's COVID coordinator announces the easing of further restrictions from tomorrow. The big changes: stand-up drinking, dancing and buffets now allowed. Venue density restrictions changed to 1 person per 2 square metres indoors.
Whilst we may have seen fluctuations in case numbers in South Australia, we haven't seen that specifically translating to ongoing and increasing admission rates in our hospitals.
Mask guidelines, however, remain in place. Eddie Hughes asking everyone in his electorate to continue to social distance and keep up their precautions. However, he believes the timing of the initial border openings earlier this year had an effect with the numbers.
I believe doing it before Christmas and New Year, doing it before the schools went back, has had a major impact. It had a major impact on businesses in the hospitality sector.
Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meanwhile, new life has been given to the tourism industry, with Australia reopening its international borders this week. Local operators are hoping to see an increase in visitors, with more travellers expected to make their way to the Spencer Gulf.
South Australian tourism off to a flying start. International visitors are already heading down under and making their way to the regions.
Pre-COVID, international tourism to South Australia was worth 1.2 billion. The visitor economy overall, that is a significant contributor.
Saying a return of international visitors will see more people travel out west.
The Eyre Peninsula was worth about 349 million in terms of tourism to that region. And for us, that's particularly important because what we see with international visitors is they'll get right out to the West Coast.
Local tourism operators already gaining more traction.
We specialise in tailor-made tours, so private sort of tours, and now that the international borders are opening up, we're starting to see a lot more interest, or even some interest in that as well, which is great.
The Tourism Development Manager now looking to implement new strategies.
So I think it's really important that we do that to try to attract those visitors back to the Eyre Peninsula.
It's only early days, but international travellers are already on our doorstep.
But we're definitely getting a few more from New Zealand, the States in particular, so that's a really good sign.
Just get out and about. It has been a really challenging time for our tourism industry and hospitality industry.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Police responded to a serious car crash at Emeroo near Port Augusta early this morning. At around 3 a.m, emergency services were called to Yorkeys Crossing Road after a car with 5 men had crashed and rolled. One of the passengers suffered serious injuries and was first taken to the local hospital. He was then flown to the Royal Adelaide Hospital for treatment later this morning. Police are reminding people to register their firearms or surrender them over to a police station. It comes after 6 unregistered gel blasters were seized from a Port Pirie property over the weekend, sparking a concern in the community.
It was last Saturday when police entered a property in Port Pirie and found 6 gel blasters hanging from the walls. A 33-year-old man allegedly at the house was reported for being in possession of firearms without a licence and will be summoned to appear in court at a later date. It's understood the gel blasters range from assault rifles, submachine guns and pistols, causing police to remind the community these weapons are in the same category as guns.
So they're categorised as firearms, so they face the same punishment as owning a firearm without a licence.
Offenders could face a fine of up to $10,000 or a 2-year jail term if caught with an unregistered gel blaster.
If you don't have a licence, I strongly recommend either surrendering your gel blasters. You can do that at a police station or at a licensed firearm business. You will face criminal charges if you are found.
If you do have a licence, then you will need to make sure the firearms and ammunition are secured properly.
You have to have it in a safe which meet the standards, and you also have to store the ammunition separately.
Police believe many people still see them as harmless toys, but gel blasters can be used to intimidate, incite violence and cause injury. Christian Komenos, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, calls to reduce the fuel excise as prices rise amid escalating conflict in the Ukraine. And construction on long-awaited road upgrades in Wallaroo begins. You're watching 7 Spencer Gulf News. A South Australian senator is calling for a federal fuel excise to be temporarily reduced as petrol prices in the region continue to rise. The situation in the Ukraine is predicted to add extra pressure on fuel prices here in Australia.
It's a push to help Spencer Gulf drivers save money at the petrol pump. A South Australian senator calling for the federal government to temporarily reduce the fuel excise by half. The crisis in Ukraine pushing prices upwards.
We're seeing prices approaching $2 per litre, certainly $1.80 around the Iron Triangle, up around places like Roxby Downs.
As stated in Fuel Watch this week, petrol prices continue to rise across the region. Some centres already seeing unleaded at over $1.80 per litre.
It's hurting small businesses in the wake of COVID, and the government needs to give some relief in relation to this.
The Prime Minister telling ABC Radio he's ruling out changes to the fuel excise, a sales tax added on top of the GST.
Now, you don't go and completely recalibrate your budget based on fluctuations in oil prices. They've gone up, they've gone down. So, we'd need to assess what the longer-term impact would be.
Meanwhile, the RAA says the excise helps fund important roadworks across the region.
It's critical, basically, to ensure that we've got funding to maintain the network we've got, but also ensure that we've got funding available to meet future demands on the network.
Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Drivers in the Yorke Peninsula will be pleased to hear 4 major roads in Wallaroo will be resurfaced over the next 2 years. After many years of advocating, Fraser Ellis and the Copper Coast Council have secured funding from the state government.
It can be a bit of a bumpy ride in Wallaroo, but that is about to change. The first stage will begin in the coming months to resurface the Copper Coast Highway from Bowman's Road to Athena Drive. A portion of road hit with heavy traffic flow and a lot of complaints from residents.
Extremely narrow, terribly undulating. I know that the people living adjacent to that road hear quite a few cars and trucks bouncing around all through the night because it's exceedingly busy. So I had a whole myriad of problems, and hopefully this solution will fix it once and for all.
The road's so bumpy, emergency services had to slow down while driving on them.
If a patient was being transferred from the Wallaroo Hospital to the airport in the back of an ambulance on such a poor standard road, it was particularly uncomfortable.
Victoria, Hughes and Irvine streets will also get much needed upgrades, aiming to improve the overall drive for tourists during holiday season.
Wallaroo is one of our main tourist towns, and at the moment the entrance to it is just not to a suitable standard to continue to attract repeat visitors. So this facelift should help to encourage people to come back again, and of course the people that use it every day will be more than appreciative.
The Council and the Department of Infrastructure and Transport will also come up with landscape designs to beautify the area with footpaths and trees. Christian Komenos, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Another step has been announced for exploration at Whalers Way, which will see research into native birds. Southern Launch is set to sponsor Flinders University, while experts monitor 2 bird species.
A bird's eye view into the conservation life at Whalers Way.
Southern Launch is supporting the research costs for 2 PhD projects. One PhD project which will look at raptor monitoring, and the second PhD project which will look at the emu wren monitoring.
Southern Launch sponsoring Flinders University with $180,000 for research conducted over 3 years.
It's been a fantastic relationship that's built up, and it's culminated in us funding independent research, done by Flinders University into these two species.
PhD students will look into the southern emu wren and the Nanking kestrel. The organisation welcoming the university to use its facilities.
Also allowing us access to their site, because both species have been found within the site, including the Paulington area as well, to get a better understanding of what birds are present or absent within those areas.
The research looking to go a long way in protecting the bird species, as well as providing an understanding of their conservation.
Especially for the endangered emu wrens, because with endangered species it's very important to know where they are and how many there are and how well they're doing.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. A Broken Hill bike rider prepares for a mammoth cycle for sick children. And a plaque unveiled for a dedicated Corn kindergarten teacher. Hello again. Some Broken Hill riders are jumping on their bikes to undertake a tough cycle from Melbourne to Adelaide. The gruelling ride is all for a good cause, raising money for sick children across South Australia.
After being a supporter and volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House for many years, Tim Ferguson decided to get on his bike to raise funds for sick children.
I've been a sponsor, supporter, volunteer for the last probably 5 to 7 years, and a rider since 2019.
Joining Tim on the ride, Mark Craven, Judd Carpenter, Nash Mitchell, Nigel Lawrence and Nick Mann. All riding 1,000 kilometres a month in preparation for the mammoth trip from Melbourne to Adelaide. While the training and the ride may be hard, Tim says it's all worth it when the trip is over.
The pain and the soreness you get out of riding 1,000 k's over that period of time, but it's offset with the smile on the faces when we ride into the house and see the kids that we raise the money for and make their day just a lot easier.
The ride has been cancelled and postponed the last 2 years. With relief this year, the event has not suffered the same fate.
2019 was our first ride and we were excited to jump on again in 2020, but as we all know, COVID hit. It was a bit disappointing, but in 2020 we done a virtual ride, so we were able to still raise money for the house.
The ride starts on March 6 in Melbourne, with participants expected to be at Adelaide's Ronald McDonald House in just 6 days. To donate, visit the organisation's fundraising page.
At the moment, I think we've just ticked over $70,000 raised this year for the Ride for Sick Kids, and we couldn't have done that without our community of Broken Hill and surrounds.
Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A Corn kindergarten has honoured one of its most treasured staff members in a celebration of how far they've come. The teacher has worked at the school for more than 4 decades, saying she has loved every minute of it.
A grand gesture crafted by little hands.
Today we've acknowledged a very long-standing member of our community and of our site here at Corn Kindergarten. She has been with us for over 40 years.
The kindergarten surprising its most senior staff member in an unveiling ceremony.
The community has connected to Mrs. Murray, and the level of respect that they've shown her as an educator here is it's beyond words, really.
Left speechless by her dedication, the kindergarten has created a large plaque to show their appreciation.
I'd like to thank Maggie for surprising me and the girls and the governing council for doing this and surprising me with all this.
Mrs. Murray says she's proud of how far the kindy has come from when she first started, and she is grateful to have seen many local children develop into outstanding citizens.
Like, I miss these kids now, you know, and I pop in here now and again to say hello.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The Silver City is set to get a splash of colour this weekend, with a colour run set for this Sunday. After a hiatus of 3 years, organisers are hoping for a big turnout to raise money for the Ronald McDonald House.
Dust off your sneakers and find your whitest activewear. The Broken Hill Colour Run is back. With a sea of colour set to hit Sturt Park, the event raising funds for Ronald McDonald House. For some residents who haven't experienced it, here is what you can expect.
We've got a kilometre track marked around Sturt Park, and they wear white clothes usually, or old clothes, and then there's 4 or 5 different stations where they'll be pelted or walking through dusts of colour.
You don't need to be an exceptional athlete to take part in the run, or do the course alone, with teams allowed on the day.
Not at all. People bring their dogs, people ride in teammates with sporting clubs, family members, yes. You can walk, you can crawl. Some people don't even do the 5 kilometres.
The last colour run had 250 participants. Organisers are hoping to top that this year.
We'd like to get over 300 people there. That'd be our record. And, you know, we haven't had this for 3 years, so Broken Hill people come out and support us.
The weather report for Sunday predicts a sunny day. For those taking part, don't forget to bring your hat, sunscreen and water bottle.
Wear shoes. You know, it's going to be 31 degrees, so if they want to put sunblock on, that's probably a hat if they want and stuff like that. We'll have water there for sale, or bring their own water bottles.
Registration for the run starts at 9 a.m, with the race set to get underway at 10. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Our cricket experts will share their tips for matches over the weekend. And we'll have the weekend weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. With the cricket season really starting to ramp up, let's hear from our experts with their tips for weekend matches.
Hello and welcome to the second to last round of the Wyler Cricket Association. First match sees North Wyler take on West. North are undefeated this year, and I think it's going to continue against West Wyler. In the second match, we see Rupina take on Centrals. This will be a highly anticipated game, but I think Centrals might be too strong, and I think Scott Collison is due.
Semi-final time in Broken Hill cricket this weekend, with North taking on West at the Alma Oval on Saturday. Been a good duel between these two sides all season, and this game won't be any different. I'm selecting North, so they've been the premiers for the last 4 years. Been a little bit up and down this season. We're on a roll after Christmas until last week when Centrals beat them, so I think they may prove a little bit stronger than West. In the women's semi-final down here at the Jubilee Oval tonight, North take on Central. Again, this will be a pretty close contest. There's not much between the two sides. North have probably been a little bit stronger in their last couple occasions, and I think they possibly should prevail in this game.
Hello and welcome to the final minor round of Port Pirie cricket. With all teams still in contention for finals, this round should be a beauty. We got Props taking on Southport here at Memorial Oval. Southport need a win to keep their hopes alive, while a win to Props could see them take top spot and go straight through to the grand final. I'm going to tip Props. Over at Port Oval, we got Port Germain taking on Wandera. Port Germain need the win to keep their finals hopes alive, while Wandera will be looking for the win to take that top spot out. I'm going to tip Port Germain.
Yeah, g'day and welcome to the round 7 of the Northern Super League / Port Augusta Cricket Association tips for round 7. This week we see South take on Central Stirling at Central Oval. This should be a good match. I'm going to lean towards Central Stirling to beat South. The other match is Corn take on West Augusta in Corn. Westies had their first win first win in Port Augusta. They've won a few for the Super League, but this is their first win in Port Augusta, so they're on a bit of a roll. But unfortunately, with the game being played in Corn, I'm going to lean towards Corn to beat West. So there are my two winners, Central Stirling and Corn.
Welcome to this week's Portlingon Cricket Tips. Another big weekend of cricket coming up with finals just around the corner. First game is Charlton and Southern Air South out at Wangari. Pink Stumps Day out there. Southern Air South have got plenty planned. Believe they've got a few out as well though, so I'm going to tip Charlton to get over the line in that one and upset Southern Air there. In the next game is Todd River and Waybacks at Centenary Oval. Waybacks coming off a huge loss last week. Going to tip Todd River to get their first victory of the season as well. Thanks for listening to the Portlingon Cricket Tips.
Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather this weekend. Here's Alex Sykes.
Thanks, Ruby, and happy Friday, everyone. There was sunshine right across the Gulf with very little cloud in sight. At 3 p.m. today, Port Augusta was a sunny 32, Whyalla was 28 and Cooper Pedy reached 37 degrees. Looking further out across the region now, Port Lincoln and Cleve were both 23, Broken Hill and Port Pirie were both 34. Our friends in Adelaide reached 29. Woodna was sunny and 30. Kadina and Cleve were both 23. Clare was mostly sunny and 30 degrees. Taking a look at the satellite image now, skies are largely clear across the state under a ridge of high pressure, and a marine wind warning remains current for South Australia. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. South to southeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots, increasing to 20 to 30 knots in the evening, seas 1 to 2 metres, and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre. Mostly sunny in the Eyre Peninsula tomorrow. Port Lincoln will reach 24, Cleve 27, Woodna 34 degrees, Whyalla will be sunny and 30, Port Augusta 33, Kadina will get to a high of 31 degrees. Port Pirie and Broken Hill are both set to reach 33, and Clare will be a sunny top of 31 degrees. Mostly sunny in Port Augusta and Port Pirie on Sunday, both 31, Whyalla 28, Port Lincoln partly cloudy and 24, sunny in Cooper Pedy 38, Broken Hill will be mostly sunny and 33. Taking a look further through to next week, now it'll reach 30 degrees in Port Pirie and Broken Hill on Monday. Port Augusta and Kadina will both top 29, Whyalla will be partly cloudy and 27. To Tuesday now, cloud clearing in Woodna with 30, Port Augusta, Kadina and Adelaide will all get to 27, Port Pirie and Broken Hill both 28, and Cooper Pedy will be sunny and 34 degrees. Well, it appears it will be perfect beach weather on the weekend, Ruby, and that's all the weather from me for tonight. It's back to you.
Wonderful, thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Friday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening and your weekend. We'll be back on Monday with more local news. Good night.